So my name is Travis Mercredi. I'm originally from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, so it's part of this, and Yellowknife later on. I've been here for, I spent my whole life in Northwest Territories for the most part, leaving to go to school and all that. But when we talk about media, we have something that connects one to another. It's a translation of information. What is a medium? What are the things that mediate? So when we look at around the Northwest Territories, they really are often they speak more about the sort of post-fur trade tools that mediate that experience. The thing that sort of changed it for me was how growing up in Fort Smith, how many people were involved in digital media technologies. It took a long time to sort of go through this whole process to get to this point to see I feel comfortable doing the work that I do and being who I am and not feeling like I am dishonoring, my ancestors by doing these things. It's all tied together. And if anything, that adaptiveness is exactly what they were hoping would happen. It helped me really to see these ways in which technology is not separate from my culture, not separate from being an Indigenous person in the Northwest Territories. So when we decide not to engage with it and sort of refuse that it exists, then we don't build positive things around it, and everything suffers in that case. We're doing this right now, having this conversation right now, still trying to make the case that it is worthwhile to engage with digital media, decades after the fact that it's been proven in other places to be a huge part of culture, and represent ourselves, advocate for ourselves. This media isn't just to disengage, it's to engage, it's to represent. Without it, we end up, it's like no one wrote any books about us. It's almost like the same thing happening. This is the one growth position that we have. We don't have a lot of leverage in a lot of different places here as a people. It's hard to find mentorship, and I think people are trying to address that. But the hardest part is to just be it's one thing to find mentors. It's another thing to be in a market where there's specific skills, or you're getting certain gigs that are pushing you forward, or the hardest part is access to market. You get into this thing where I just think about those lakes out in the land, right? Where it's you talk to the marine biologist and he's like, that lake is basically just trout eating each other, on one level of its food chain. They're just in there cannibalizing each other constantly, and so we kind of just stay within the network that we already have. I mean, bandwidth and connectivity is an issue. We treat it like a luxury product. But then the line gets cut to Yellowknife and $1 million are lost. And it's maybe we should have some publicly funded redundancy so that that cost isn't shouldered by all the businesses separately, right? When that connects, what is coming with that? Are we coming with that to with education, with capacity to engage and develop and be? I use the hunter gatherer, the digital version in my mind is the creator collaborator. I've always been I've been a long time collaborator in helping people realize different projects in different ways, and I think that we can take a model like that and make it work, as long as we sort of have faith that as long as we have the perspective that it's not something that is antithetical to being a Northerner, to being an Indigenous person. By not engaging with it, we end up letting other people decide what we engage with. We become passive consumers. This region doesn't need any more people living lives that they don't want to live, being people they don't want to be. So, yeah, it's time for us to sort of take ownership of some of that. Take responsibility for it, right? Take responsibility for our own, the way we engage with media, as a people in general. I mean, that should be something we value. And it's. But it's a slow process to try to adapt. We're coming from a very different place than a lot of other people. Let me start that again. This is bizarre. Okay. So, cut. Start it again.